What is up guys, Jarv here, back today jumping into Destiny. In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can get your hands on the Vexcalibur exotic Glaive entirely solo. This is a brand new exotic mission in Season of Defiance. So if you want to find out how to get your hands on it, then be sure to stick around and enjoy the video. If you do enjoy the video, be sure to leave a comment and rating down below. And remember to subscribe for more Destiny 2 content. But without further delay guys, let's jump into the video. Now, to get things started, we first need to unlock this exotic quest. We can do so by heading over to the European Dead Zone and heading towards the Gulch. There are in fact 6 new Vex nodes that we need to collect in a particular order, and these will unlock a secret cave. Now, to collect these nodes, you simply need to jump through them, and you'll know you've done this correctly as you'll see it updated on the left side of your screen. You'll now have 30 seconds to collect the next one, with the time then being extended for each time you grab another node. As we mentioned, there are 6 that you need to collect, and thanks to shacknews.com, we have an exact map here of all their locations and order. So if you combine that with the footage that you see here, you should easily be able to identify all 6. And once you've done that correctly, this will unlock the cave, gaining you access to the exotic mission. Now, to get this started, you'll first need to interact with the Vex Dome next to the Harpy, and this will teleport you inside. You don't have to repeat this step each time you want to run the quest though, as now you've gained access to it, this can now be accessed on your director over in the EDZ. Now, the mission starts with us needing to navigate our way through the Vex network. Now, this opening section is a very linear path and it's really hard to get lost. In fact, once you get to the end of this opening section, this is a complete circle, so it doesn't even matter if you go left or right, but you'll know where you need to go as you'll see 2 harpies together when navigating the Vex trenches. Once you've taken these out, there is a small cubby that you can slide down, and once you navigate your way through this section, you'll be able to drop down, and this will teleport you right inside the heart of the Vex network. And the great thing about these missions is that they teach us the mechanics for the final boss as we work our way through. And with the opening section out the way, we move on to the first major encounter where we need to use the access codes. Now, this opening section doesn't have too many tanky combatants, so you really need to focus on ad clear. In terms of the loadout that I have here, I'm running the new sniper from the Lightfall expansion with triple tap and cascade, alongside the funnel web with subsistence and adrenaline junkie, partnered by the brand new machine gun from Lightfall as well. This has feeding frenzy and hatchling. Now, these particular weapons are far from meta, but I just wanted to prove a point that you can complete this without using any exotic weapons. The only exotic item I have are the getaway artists, which I'm using as part of my arc build to generate plenty of arc souls. As I mentioned, there's a lot of ads in this encounter, as well as the encounters that are yet to come, so make sure to make adjustments to your subclass accordingly to make sure you're set up for optimal ad clearing. Now, if you are going to be running a Warlock, I'll be sure to leave the dim link to my arc build down in the video description below if you want to try it out for yourself. Now, as for the encounter itself, there are 3 access codes in this opening room, with each one progressively getting longer. Now, the locations of where these access codes are stay the same each and every time, but you need to enter the access codes that you see into the conflux in the center of the room. Now, the shapes that make up the key do phase in and out on a timer, so you don't need to do them all in a single go, but you do need to make sure they are in the correct order. If you do them in the wrong order, your access will be denied and the pattern for the key will reset, meaning you'll need to double check the combination before entering it again. Now, as you'll see, arc souls are incredibly strong here, helping control all the ads, and by using the funnel web in combination with some of the mods on our seasonal artifact, by getting multi-kills with a void weapon, this also helps generate plenty of heavy ammo for our machine gun, whilst also turning our rounds volatile. Combining arc souls and volatile rounds together makes absolutely short work of all the ads. Now, it's important to note there are a few hobgoblins on the outer sections of the map, but the sniper rifle and machine gun will make short work of those. Now, once you've completed the first 3 access codes, this will unlock a second room with deadlier combatants. As well as goblins, hobgoblins and minotaurs, there's also cyclopses, and at the very final sections, some yellow bar wyverns. Now, in terms of the mechanic itself, it remains the same. You'll once again need to enter the correct access codes into the conflux. Now, I would highly recommend taking out the cyclopses and hobgoblins as soon as possible, as this will make it much easier to take out some of the lower tier combatants. As before, you'll need to locate the symbols, and you'll need to repeat this 3 times to move on to the final section. It's important to note that the symbols will put you in danger, so make sure to clear out the ads the best you can before running in to check your pattern that you'll need to enter into the conflux to progress. Now once you've cleared those 2 rooms, you'll move on to the final section of this encounter, where you'll be faced with a massive wave of powerful Vex. This is when you're faced with Wyverns, which are known as digital variant neutralizers. Now to move past this, we need to defeat all the Vex, and this will deactivate the portals either side, stopping them from spawning, and bring down the barrier, allowing us to progress further on this mission. Now you should be able to take out a lot of these combatants from distance, especially if you're using your machine gun, and better still if you can proc volatile rounds. Now once you're past this section, we'll move on to a small jumping puzzle section. As before, it's actually quite a linear path, however there are a few tricky sections, with the trickiest section being very reminiscent of a piece of the Whisper of the Worm mission, an old exotic mission from Destiny 2. This is where you have to crouch and walk very slowly on a narrow ledge that has sections of it that literally spring out at you. These will actually push you off if you're not careful. If you pay close attention to the wall on the left hand side, you can see a neon outline on where these blocks do pop out from, so make sure to avoid those the best you can to ensure you don't get pushed off the ledge. And once you've made it through this tricky section, you'll be able to jump across and rally a flag, and this officially brings us on to the first boss in this exotic quest. Now this particular boss is called the Data Nullifier, and there are some key mechanics we'll need to learn here that will also take on to the final boss. Now if you're a big fan of Gambit, then collecting data / motes will be very familiar. Now these fragments of data drop from data holders, which are very weak Vex fanatics. Once you defeat them, they will drop them, and we'll need to collect these as quickly as possible to fill the central conflux. Much like in Gambit, you'll need to interact with the conflux to actually bank your data. Now it's important to remember that the data has a very limited time on the floor. They won't stick around forever, and you have only a limited time to actually collect the data too, otherwise you'll be deleted from existence. Now in the very first section, you'll only need to collect 8 and then 10 data fragments, and each time you submit these into the conflux in the center of the room, this will open the floor, allowing you to take shelter and protect yourself from deletion. Whilst this does protect you from the main mechanic in the arena, this won't protect you from the combatants in the arena too. So be mindful of fanatics that come up close, and more importantly Wyverns that like to roam after you've deposited all the data. Now after those first 2 opening phases, you'll need to do damage to the Data Nullifier, which is a massive Vex Hydra. Now I highly recommend holding on to your super until you reach this point, allowing you to deal as much damage as you possibly can in the shortest time possible. Now the Data Nullifier isn't the tankiest boss in the world, but you will need to be mindful of the adds that are in the arena with you, so pop in things like rifts if you're on a warlock to activate arc souls, or consuming your grenade if you're running getaway artists will help you manage the adds whilst you can focus on the boss. And once you reach the damage gate, this will trigger the second half of the encounter, where we'll once again need to collect even more data fragments. This time though, we'll need to collect 10 and 12, and we have a very limited time in order to do that. Using an arc subclass and becoming amplified allows you to run incredibly fast, helping you collect all these fragments in the shortest space of time. Where possible, I would stick to the outer edges of the arena. This allows you to take out the hobgoblins which deal damage, whilst also taking cover, and in fact you can funnel all the fanatics and goblins together up this ramp, and by collecting an orb of power you can proc volatile rounds, and you can clear the entire army of Vex. With them out your way, you can run through all those fragments whilst you're amplified, sprinting straight to the conflux and submitting all your fragments. I found this to be the most efficient way in the second half of this fight, as you'll need to collect a lot of fragments, and if you get overwhelmed by adds, you won't have enough time to do it. Now, as before, once you've submitted the fragments, you'll drop down into a pit for protection, and as before, make sure to have your machine gun ready for any wyverns that like to get up close. And once you've entered all those fragments, you'll face the Data Nullifier one more time, and as before, if you hold on to your super, you'll be able to use it here, which will easily allow you to complete the first boss fight in this exotic quest. Now from here we need to go through our second jump puzzle, but in fact we have a complete skip that allows us to go directly from this boss fight to the final boss fight. Now if we drop down to this opening section of the jump puzzle, instead of making our way across the ravine, you can actually drop down. Now as long as you don't break your fall immediately, you want to head towards this Vex fluid and land on this lower ledge. Now once you land on this ledge, you can make your way to the middle of this Vex lake, and as you approach the middle, you will start to fall through. Now as long as you're exactly in the middle and fall all the way down, you'll land directly on the Vex teleporter that will take you all the way to the final boss. It allows you to save a huge amount of time, as well as avoiding a tricky jump puzzle. Now with that all out of the way, it moves us on to the final boss, Brachion Repurposed Mind. This may be quite familiar to a lot of us if you ran the Pyramidion strike back in Destiny 2, with not just the boss but even the arena being very familiar indeed. Now the opening phase of this fight is pure out and out damage to try and do as much damage as you can to Brachion as you possibly can. Now if you rallied the flag, you will have your super, so feel free to use that straight off the bat. Now Brachion will teleport from corner to corner. Now it's fairly easy to anticipate the teleports. You can in fact just stand still and allow him to teleport straight to you. But if you're doing most of your damage from distance, be sure to use your sniper rifle, saving your machine gun ammo for those tankier targets such as wyverns. Now once you've done enough damage, this will trigger the second phase. Now to kick this off, you just need to head through the Vex portal. Now this second phase will take all the mechanics we've learned so far in this mission and combine them into one. Now by taking out the Hydra, this will spawn in a conflux, and once again we need to find the key pattern in order to unlock the key. Now the patterns can be found in one of two places. You'll find them in the back corners of the arena. There are these triangle shaped glass floors in each corner of the room, and one of these will house the pattern's key. Now as the key isn't visible from the conflux, you'll need to remember it in full, and as the pattern will be up to 5 combinations long, if you're not too sure on what the pattern is, then feel free to head back there to double check it to avoid entering the wrong pattern. Now before entering the final pattern for the key, be sure to clear as many of the combatants as you can as possible. This will help you deal as much damage to Brachion as you can, as by fully entering the key, this will make Brachion vulnerable to damage. So by clearing the ads, you'll get reduced flinch, and you'll also be able to take advantage of any additional ammo that they drop. Now the reason this is so important is you have a very limited window to do damage to Brachion, with only 30 seconds being available. The last thing you want is to be flinched out of every sniper shot or run out of ammo because you weren't ready for damage. So to make the most of these damage windows, make sure that you're prepared before triggering the damage phase. Now if you don't do enough damage, don't worry, you'll simply need to repeat this part of the fight over and over again until you get Brachion to the final third of his damage bar. Now the final phase is the most hectic part of the fight, as Brachion won't have a head at this point, and he'll be just chasing you around the arena. Now before entering this part of the fight though, you will need to pass through a Vex portal. What I would highly recommend is if you don't have your super, I would wait for it before entering the final part of this fight. Waiting back in the previous room will allow you to do that, and you'll also be able to defeat all the combatants too for additional ammo drops. Now this final boss room is full of Vex fanatics, and Brachion will be chasing you and stomping around the arena. You'll need to keep moving and clearing ads, and this is where Arc Souls really come in clutch, because they take care of most of the ads for you. And once again, if you have your super, make sure to use that straight off the bat. There should be enough ads in the arena for you to get your super back fairly quickly, and once again by taking advantage of the Arc 3.0 subclass becoming amplified allows us to run away from Brachion and find cover quickly as and when we can. The key to this final part of the fight is to shoot and move continuously and fire off with your super as soon as you get it. Standing still in this part of the fight is an absolute death sentence, as Brachion has this void blast that would deal incredible amounts of damage. If you can put all the pieces to the puzzle together and make Brachion eat his final words, you will successfully complete the Avalon quest, and will be free to go collect your very own Vexcalibur from the war table over in the Helm. So there we have it guys, a good look on how anyone can solo their way to the new Vexcalibur exotic Glaive. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to check out one of the 2 videos you see here in these cards for more Destiny 2 content. And if you want to keep up to date with everything to do with Destiny 2, then be sure to hit subscribe as well. I'm going to be to the game as always guys, and I will catch you all again very soon.